So the purpose of this program, now the why. Normally I would start with why because it's more important, but I wanted to start with what so you can figure and find it in the video, okay? Let's face it, the purpose of this program. We live in a world, and this may be a bit cynical, but it's kind of true, quite true. We live in a world that capitalizes on not having your best interests at heart. Yet, we have to manage to trust ourselves and others so as to believe that we can navigate through this world unharmed. Can you imagine growing up in a world that isn't there to support you and you live in world? Think of it like that white room that I talked about, right? You live in world. Yet you believe that in world you will get through it without getting hurt. Is that a realistic expectation? No. Here comes the truck. It blows through the wall. Here's your new world reality. Okay. So can you hold others to it? To considering your best interests? No. Can you hold yourself to it? Yes. You can consider your own best interests and you can try. But what is the right answer? We go through life trying to find the solution that is we're all just trying to get through life without getting hurt. And it's relatable. It's understandable. It's a challenge we all experience, right? Yet it's just another way to make do, to adjust and adapt and cope with the feeling that you are making things better and life goes on. But you are consistently presented with the same problem, and eventually running from it is no longer an answer. That is when you awaken to the truth that you will not cower. You will not be in fear at the challenges you are faced with ahead of you. And the validity in choosing to confront the darkness and face the fear is what you then do to set forth, to change, to destroy your life of lies, right? And that is when you allow the light to consume you rather than the darkness, and the hero's journey has begun. So, in the external, there are people in power who don't have your best interests at heart. It's an unfortunate reality. And you do. And the powers that be, they don't want you to be your own person. They don't want you to be well-informed. They don't want you to be educated, and they don't want you to be people that are capable of critical thinking. And they just don't. And why is that, you ask? Because it benefits them to do so, to keep you ignorant. So when you start to think with a bigger picture in mind and ask better questions and soon realize that it benefits you to be well-informed, educated, and an individual capable of critical thinking skills, you decide that there is no turning back from that discomfort. You actually end up seeking discomfort, and it makes you more comfort-able, right? So how do you get through this mess of life that you're living through that has us where we can't trust people and you aren't supported in living this human experience? And through all of this shit that you're just surviving through, you're being misguided and mistreated as a result of being a part of society. How do we make it alone? We actually have to learn from our experiences, and we have to find ways to unify the opposing parts within ourselves because we're fragmented. We're traumatized human beings, right? And so those fragments, those parts that are separated is what we then take the values of truth and unity to create self-healing, right? And in so doing, that is our relationship with ourselves and the relationship that is unified with the other people around us. They're fragmented because we are separated from the unification of the whole with that which is around us. Does that make sense? And so we can use that to assist in seeing the bigger picture so that we internally become more whole, and then we externally shape the whole world with our intentions. And so when we become more whole with ourselves, we're in turn better able to connect with others, you see. And it is a natural consequence of our state of integration. To reduce the fragmentation that we have inside of us, it is the worldwide disease. We do that through integration. And through self-healing, we experience self-love. And through self-love, loving others becomes a natural consequence, as though we love ourselves. And so the recipe for world change instead of world disaster is actually healing. And it's a fascinating process when you begin to understand it. And here's some of the values that I share. So truth and unity equals self-healing equals self-love, and self-love equals loving others. Others you just see as different. It's separate from your own egoic identity, right? And so you have to learn to see yourself in others, to see others within yourself. And so it is the process of bringing together the self and the other that allows you to grow in the right direction, to serve the whole, and to become one unified message in how you deliver and receive God's expression through you. Okay? So, therefore, the purpose of this project is to be capable of critical thinking so that we can break the bond to the elusive traps that control human society, to literally be free. Therefore, we can serve as a beacon of hope that is capable of continually walking and uplifting others in spirit and in truth for those that walk and endure their life journey in unawareness. It sounds kind of like a religious movement, right? To bring people on board this ship that we are sailing on, or whatever this world journey is that we are endeavoring to become, and we have yet to experience, and to share the adventure together as we endeavor into the unknown. So essentially, any sort of religious movement has to be a message so powerful and so valuable so as to create a belief system that catches fire. And it spreads amongst others as such rapid succession that it grows beyond control of the original people who governed it and created it. And so it tends to be these belief systems that people cherish and hold dear to them. Beliefs that they will stake their lives upon to carry forward into the world. So to pick that up, what they come to know and they let that knowledge spread like wildfire is something that we need to do faster than anything, to share our beliefs. Why? Because it comes from the heart. And a belief is just a held vibration. So what is within your heart, you hold true to yourself dearly at the center of it all. Okay? So if I'm to make a community that's worthwhile with this goal in mind, truth and unity, to unite the family of truth, which is my deepest intention, to unite souls, 10 billion souls in unity, emotionally free, healed spiritually, brought together with love by the motiva familia, then I'm going to need people who carry forth this message. Okay? So if I'm to make a community that's worthwhile with this goal in mind, we really do need to be a religious movement in terms of being able to critically think, to freely think, to be able to go beyond our current comprehension and establish new beliefs and shed old ones that don't serve us. We need to be extraordinary in opening our minds to not just be limited by what we're told, to break the confines and the double and triple binds that we have tied ourselves into, and to let go and fall through the floorboards, and to have the opportunity to then crawl back out and climb up, jump and fly our way out of our pre-established opinions and beliefs that only hold relevance within us because we haven't stopped to think and self-reflect and detect where they no longer serve us. To put a part of us to death and to give back to ourselves a renewed state of rebirth and renewal. That, my friends, is a meaningful unit of time to use your days in accordance with this transformative cycle. So the way that we will do this is by listening to our inner voice and developing a healthy relationship with this inner dialogue so as to recognize and interpret its connection to source, that which is God. In this way, we will learn to lead ourselves and be led through our connection through the universe as God's true intention shines intimately and in express detail by the mutual relationship God gets to have with us and through us. This will improve the context of the content of the communication you put out into the world because you have improved that communication that you have with yourself. By learning to best lead ourselves through being a healing example and documenting that on camera for others to see, the expansion of our awareness, we begin to witness and develop invulnerability in our human experience, therefore challenging the status quo and redefining the brave new world that we want to live in, free of enslavement and empowered and peacefully empowering ourselves and others with loving dignity. So here's a couple quotes. I have one from Teal Swan, one from Jordan Peterson, okay? There is in fact nothing that is more brave than being willing to give the vulnerable aspect of yourself to someone else. In fact, the opposite is cowardice. The highest form of bravery is the vulnerability to both give and receive the most vulnerable aspects of your being. When you're vulnerable, you become invulnerable for it. So I'll just say that you won't get through this journey of openness opening yourself up in your heart and your self-expression, your truth without courage. Courage is the first ingredient, and it's a necessity because courage is actually bravery in action. And here, Jordan Peterson, to the detriment of a tyrannical society, explains the bigger picture, and that courage is a very, very rare virtue. You know, I had studied totalitarian states for a long time, and I knew that people were easily led into a state of pathological silence, but I didn't understand how rapidly they could occur and how few people, even in a free society with a long history of freedom, would be loathed to speak and how rapidly that could occur. You know, and you do see people who stand up and say things that might get them in trouble. And some of them are just people who are unwise, right? And who are unwilling, who are willing to impulsively share what comes to mind. And there are other people, and they are much rarer, who are thoughtful and who've carefully considered what they have to say and are willing to say it anyways. To add to that a little bit more, and you fell into that, and he's speaking to somebody else, and you fell into that camp right away, and you've been pursuing that for a good long time. You know, also with the sense of humor, which is, I think, a sign of mastery. So if you can humorously express yourself and navigate through sharing your truth and what comes to mind, and feel like you have the freedom of speech to be able to get your thoughts out of your head and feel like you're not going to run headlong into a brick wall when you do it, then that's what I'm giving to you, so that you get to the point where you're processing these thoughts in a way that you allow yourself to speak without necessarily having to think, but allowing it to flow through as if your thoughts are building momentum, so that you can do the much rarer thing, which is to be thoughtful when you speak, right? And so the energy that's trying to channel and express through you, you're just opening it up and allowing it to come. And so you're going to do those things where you think before you speak. And you don't think before you speak. But to get to thinking before you speak, you're going to be really, really come into alignment with the intention behind it, right? And so you have to figure out what that is energetically.